The United States ambassador to the UN has vetoed a draft resolution rejecting Donald Trump's decision to recognise Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. All 14 other members voted for the resolution. Joining me live on the line now is Maupin, our correspondent, who's been following events there from his base in New York. Tell us more then about the Security Council meeting. How did the vote unfold, and how did they talk about it afterwards?
Well, the 15-member body that leads the United Nations was assembled. Now, the meeting was called by Egypt that put forward a resolution, and this resolution was essentially intended to kind of give voice and give legitimacy to all the outrage that has taken place in response to the announcement from Donald Trump that the United States is moving the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem and recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Now, there have been protests all across the world ever since that. There's been a big meeting of Muslim countries from around the world condemning that decision. So the meeting took place. They were discussing and eventually voted on the resolution that came from Egypt. Now, when countries spoke, no one would directly point the finger at the United States or at Donald Trump. However, we did hear some rather strong language. This is Egypt talking about their resolution.
I will address
Jerusalem is one of the issues that must be settled through peaceful negotiation between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Any attempt at changing facts on the ground in Jerusalem is considered an illegal unilateral measure that will have no legal impact since it goes against international law.
Now, what made the meeting unique was not only did we hear normal critics of the United States condemning the decision, but we also heard, Western European allies of the U.S., NATO states condemning this action by the United States and boldly disagreeing with the USA for what took place. This is actually the UN ambassador of France.
After another.
There are negative effects on the region caused by the December 6th announcement and the way it can be interpreted. These effects must be avoided. We call on all regional players to help calm the situation.
Now, of course, we then heard from Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and she defended the decision by the White House to move the U.S. embassy. She accused the United Nations of being anti-Israel and called the proposed resolution scandalous. This is Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
What we witnessed here today in the Security Council is an insult. It won't be forgotten. It's one more example of the United Nations doing more harm than good in addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Now, under Rule 37 of the United Nations, any country that is affected by a resolution has the right to address the meeting of the Security Council. So we heard from both Israel and Palestine, and the Palestinian representative basically accused the United States of joking with the international community or teasing the international community. Now, at this point, we saw what is a rare occurrence in the UN Security Council chamber. There was a vote among the Security Council that was 14-1, with the entire international community essentially united against the United States. The USA voted against the resolution, and the international community disagreed, almost unanimously, there was a unanimous opposition to the United States in the Security Council. However, it is important to note that because the United States is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, their no vote served as a veto, and the resolution was voted down, despite the fact that all 14 other countries, every other country represented on the Security Council was in disagreement. So at this point, now, one thing that was agreed upon by all the bodies, including the United States, was that they wanted peaceful negotiations and a peaceful process to resolve the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Everyone, including the United States, did agree that they wanted a peaceful resolution of the conflict after the resolution that was supported by 14 members and 14 countries was vetoed by the United States.
Bringing us the very latest on today's vote in New York. That's our correspondent there, Maupin. Thank you.